based on the calculation that he would be seen as a strong man who can afford to act in his criminal manner. It will indeed be due to his behavior that various reprimanding voices will be raised in various nations, but they truly are not meant seriously. Secretly, Menachem Begin will be, namely, admired and supported by those reprimanding him, whereby he will feel strong enough to drive his insults against the Germans to the utmost in order to win votes from his people. These insults, of course, are based only on malicious lies, but they will be well thought out and aimed toward one purpose: to keep secret the next and, at that point in time, already planned crime, namely, to lead a warlike offensive blow under the pretense of defense against the nation of Iraq, whereby somewhere during the time between June 7th and 9th, 1981, the nation of Iraq will be criminally attacked and bombarded by the Israeli Air Force, whereby their target of destruction will be an atomic power plant under construction. Billy says hectares, and naturally the responsible ones of some nations will be artificially excited again to preserve appearances. Semyaza says unfortunately, then it will also be so in this case. Billy says Begin could then still reach his goal, because as usual Israel, due to falsely induced pity, reparations, and due to the false humanitarianism of the people, and so forth, can continue to drive Begin's murderous deeds and his mania to gain national control of Palestine. He actually does honor to his origin Hebrion. As I know, this designation stems from the ancient Laran language and means gypsy, but this translation is not correct, because actually, Hebrion in the ancient language, and therefore in Laran means Hebron and not Hebrion. But Hebron means the cast off, or cast out, scum. 5. Semyaza says sure, that is correct, but now, continue to listen to what I will further report to you in chronological order, and what I have already addressed. Pope John Paul II will be severely injured by an assassination attempt, which will likewise lead to the uncertainty that has already been addressed as to whether he will carry out his trip to Switzerland or not. Health-wise, this trip would, indeed, be quite possible for him after the assassination attempt, but the calculations do not show whether or not the responsible persons for the trip will approve of a trip to Switzerland at this time. The likelihood is that the trip will be cancelled and rescheduled. A repeated murderer of Turkish nationality, by the name of Ahmed Ali Akka, will have to bear the responsibility for the assassination attempt on the Pope, who will make several shots at the Pope and severely injure him. Although the injury will be severe, the Pope will survive the attack and the quick surgery that will follow. According to our calculations, this will happen during the period from the 12th to 14th of May, where the 13th of May of 1981, around the time of 5:17 p.m., is the greatest probability. The Pope, and this is entirely certain, will survive, but only a week later, the Pope's bosom friend, Cardinal Zinski of Poland, will end his life, who, until then, will have driven his sectarian regime there for many years. The Cardinal's death will take place around the same time when President Reagan's assassin will make a failing suicide attempt with medicines. Billy says oh, so he will want to kill himself. Semyaza says with certainty, but the attempt will remain just as such, as I explained. Only a few days after these incidents will the government again turn to the country of Iran, in order to excite the interest of the world public again. Billy says aha, it will probably start again as a result of this Khomeini. Semyaza says it will be something like that because some other time, he will incite the Iranian people against the leadership, this time against the President Bani Saad, who will take over this role as a politically moderate person in Iran. This means that he won't pursue the murderous lines of the insane Ayatollah and will, thus, slowly fall into disgrace with this and with the people. His fall will take place in the time between the 10th and the 15th of June 1981, whereby he will then be forced to flee. The Iranian people and the blood judge will rise up against him and demand his death. Billy says thus, the usual approach of underage criminals and mentally incompetent ones. Semyaza says sure. This event in Iran will not be the only one at this time, because only hours after the attack on President Bani Sad, in the south of the same country, a severe earthquake will take the lives of 7,30 people. Billy says, and where will this earthquake take place? Semyaza says, according to our calculations, in the area around Kuman, in a region, thus, that you know very well. Billy says, yes, I was there several times and also for a longer period of time. Semyaza says, that is well known to me. But now, continue to listen, because there is still a third event that will follow these two that were mentioned, but this will happen in England. This event will be a sign of the fact that the prophecies of Petail, which you have written down concerning England, will begin to fulfill themselves in the first phases. Billy says, then it probably just concerns the assassination attempt on the Queen, which you mentioned to me once as that sign of the times, which should be the basic beginning of the beginnings of fulfillments of the prophecies. Semyaza says, your memory is as good as ever. Yes, only a short time after the devastating earthquake in Iran, the Queen of England will be attacked by a not yet 20-year-old adolescent, but the Queen won't receive any injuries and will escape with fright. This is because the firearm of the youth will only be loaded with deceptive ammunition. Billy says, do you mean that the assassination weapon will only contain blank bullets? Semyaza says, sure. Billy says, I don't understand that. Semyaza says, this has its special reasons, but they are not supposed to be mentioned officially. Billy says, then just don't. Semyaza says, around the 18th to 19th of June, 1981, the Israeli president will be able to achieve his first success with regard to his insidious attack on the nuclear power plant in Iraq, because the illusory reproaches of various countries will lead to the result that no sanctions will be taken against Begin and Israel, which will entice him to charge the German politicians as being criminals and as the ones responsible for the anti-Semitic machinations in the last World War, and this time, he will even go so far as to make the entire German people responsible for this. Billy says, typical. Semyaza says, sure, but continue to listen to what will happen. The month of June, 1981 calls for a severe earthquake in Iran, in the region of Kuman, causing around 1,300 deaths. Following this, on the 23rd of June, a bomb assassination attempt will take place on the Iranian cabinet in Tehran. The result will be that approximately 70 people will die, whereby one of Khomeini's horrible mass murderers will also be killed. That blood judge Kalkalai. Only a month later, on July 28, Iran will once again be shaken by a major quake, again in the region of Kuman, but this time, it will demand 7,200 deaths, while several cities and villages will fall to the ground. Only shortly after the assassination attempt in Tehran, another severe earthquake will shake the Philippines. The earthquake will be connected with a volcanic eruption, and about 130 humans will fall victim to this. Billy says, then this time alone will do a great deal of diverse things. There is probably also the madman of Khomeini, who will begin his mass executions again, after all that you said in reference to Iran. Semyaza says that will, unfortunately, be the case because many hundreds will soon fall victim to the insanity of this man. Billy says it cannot be otherwise with such degeneracy. Semyaza says, unfortunately, that is correct. But continue to listen. I already told you about the severe quake in China, which can be expected, in particular, in the area around Sichuan. After the events that you mentioned earlier, this Chinese seismic zone will suffer from severe floods, resulting in deaths that will amount to about 4,700. It will also be the time during which the murderous and criminal Israeli president of the state, Menachem Begin, will again be confirmed into his office, according to which he will immediately command and carry out new murderous attacks on the neighboring countries. This time, bomb attacks on the Lebanese capital will be part of the plan, which will cause hundreds of deaths to be lamented over as a result of several attacks by the Israeli Air Force. This will be a result of the greed-driven madness of begin and will be further proved